Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Narito po ang ating mahal na Pangulo. Siya po ay magbibigay ng pahayag tungkol sa hostage-taking incident na naganap kahapon. Kasama po niya ang mga pinuno ng Philippine National Police, General Santiago, General Magtibay, at si Police Superintendent Hierba, ang Chief Negotiator dun sa hostage-taking incident kanina. Pakinggan po natin ang ating Pangulo.
Okay. Gandang umaga po. With the rest of the Filipino people, I wish to offer our deepest condolences to the families of the victims whose lives were lost in the hostage situation at the Quirino Grandstand. The Secretary of Foreign Affairs has conveyed our deep feelings of sorrow to the Foreign Minister of the People's Republic of China and the people of Hong Kong through Hong Kong Chief Executive Donald Chang. I have tasked Secretaries Soliman and Lim to provide everything necessary for the recovery and return home of the survivors, as well as to take care of those who tragically died tonight. I have directed the fullest cooperation with the Hong Kong authorities and the People's Republic of China authorities who are on their way to the Philippines. From the onset of this incident, the hostage taker seemed to be non-belligerent, as shown by his release of hostages. These were encouraging signs. We were going to wait him out. The idea was to let the ground commanders, who are the experts in this field, handle the operation with minimal interference from people who are less expert. But the situation deteriorated rapidly when, during the course of the negotiations, he was given the letter of the Ombudsman, in which she promised to personally review his case. As he was reading the contents of the letter, while talking to an unknown individual on the cell phone, he became increasingly agitated. The presence of his brother also added to the tension. At this point, he threatened to kill a hostage. The police decided to remove the brother from the scene, and as the negotiators were departing, the negotiators were shot at. Media coverage of his brother being taken into custody might have further agitated the hostage taker. Shots were fired. They seemed to be warning shots, as there was no audible indication of tumult or chaos to show that the hostages were in immediate danger. Nonetheless, the negotiators tried to establish contact with the hostage taker, but they were unsuccessful, as the cell phone of the hostage taker was continuously busy, and he also refused to answer the throw phone provided for him by the authorities. The escape of the driver, combined with his reports that the hostages were being harmed, forced the assault to happen. When the vehicle began to move, and with the reports that he had hand grenades, a decision was made to immobilize the vehicle, as it would have made the situation even more dangerous by exposing more of the populace to the danger. As we know, the incident tragically ended in the deaths of 8 innocent civilians. We expect more of the facts to come to light, and I've ordered Justice Secretary Laila de Lima and Secretary Jess Robredo to thoroughly read this review. I'm ready for your questions. Joyce.
Kalika.
Aw.
Good morning, sir. Many are asking why it took you so long to come out and face the nation. They were saying that before, former President Arroyo would assign somebody high-ranking to deal with such a situation, and that there would be updates on what was happening from her personally.
Yung nalaman ko po ito insidente ito kanina umaga po, at mula noong umaga tayo kumakausap na sa kinaukulang mga otoridad. Hindi ko naman siguro kakailanganin pang i-publicize yung mga ginagawa po natin, dahil isa sa pinakamahirap na parte nung araw natin ay yung pag-aawat do sa mga nagmimiron. Meron for instance na isang taga Napolcom na nagsalita do sa demands ng hostage taker, no kaagad. So para bang sinara ang avenue for negotiation. So I had to task Jesse Robredo to call up this particular Napolcom commissioner to tell him to keep quiet, because he was for whatever reason, greatly complicating the tense situation already. Ngayon, the ground commander has to be given confidence. He is the person who is there at the site, who will have to make the snap decisions if necessary, and it does not help him to have somebody looking over his shoulder and micromanaging everything that he has to do. No? So consciously, from the morning, that since we were informed of this incident, no, we were asking to be kept apprised of the developments, but consciously, it had to, we delegated the authority to the rightful persons who are tasked to carry out the functions of the state given these situations.
Yes, sir. Just a follow-up. Were you satisfied with the way the police handled the situation?
Well, there are a lot of things na, di ba, this resulted in a tragedy. Obviously, we can improve and we should be improving. We are also cognizant of the circumstances. Ibang training budgets, for instance, for incidents such as this, equipment necessary, the ability to deploy it everywhere in the country. Ang daming talagang kailangan gawin. And to be honest with you, this whole day, besides this hostage-taking situation, I was in touch with Secretary Ona about the dengue situation. I was talking to Secretary Abad also about the submission of the budget message. The review will pinpoint areas where skills that had been demonstrated in the past can be recovered. The provisions of new and better equipment and more training opportunities for our forces to ensure the safety of the public will be the necessary result of this tragic incident.
The next question is from Joyce Pañares, Manila Standard today.
Sir, good morning. Sir, do you think there had been lapses in the way the hostage situation was handled?
When you're confronted with a group, for instance, like Abu Sayyaf, di ba? There is a different set of parameters that you will employ if it is a hardened terrorist group like Abu Sayyaf. Now, when you have somebody who feels aggrieved by the system, who was a man in uniform, who had freed a substantial portion of the hostages under his control, parang it would tend to give you credence to the belief that you can resolve this peacefully. An assault is also called the final option, and it is only warranted when there is talaga actual harm about to be inflicted upon the hostages or already happening. Now, how can I be satisfied when there are people who died? But as you know, even in Russia, with their resources, their sophistication, when they had that theater hostage-taking situation, the casualties were even more severe. So we're not saying that it's precisely called the final option, primarily because there is no guarantee that it will always be successful. But in this particular case, and in fairness to the police, the situation really changed from somebody who seemed to be at least not as belligerent as other terrorist groups, who was not a hardcore terrorist or hardcore criminal, that led to the belief that this could be settled peacefully without loss of life. Unfortunately, and we would want to really ferret out who was he talking to that seemed to increase his agitation throughout, especially after the delivery of the letter.
Sir, just two quick follow-ups. Yung assault kasi, it took quite some time, considering that they've prepared for this. The incident started in the morning, and it took them at least an hour to finish the assault. And secondly, sir, how can you assure the international community and investors and tourists after this? The Hong Kong SAR has already posted, I think, a black travel advisory against us.
Yung assault really, it took quite a while. And it took me quite a while to face you also, to ask precisely why it did take that long. As you know, during my mother's time, we had the demonstration of the PSG's capabilities, and specifically it was a hostage rescue situation. In this particular case, again, the unit that eventually did the assault had to undertake what they call a hasty assault. The unit that has more capability was not in position closest to the bus at that particular point in time. May I just point out that if you look at the Quirino Grandstand, pre-positioning people, given that wide expanse of open area, is not an easy thing to do. Of course, with the non-stop coverage of all the media outlets And we now understand that the hostage taker was viewing the TV and listening to the radio throughout the whole time. Yung actual movement of personnel to areas where they can effect a successful assault were severely hampered. Now, in the increased capabilities, we've seen that the method that they employed to breach was not successful. Obviously, we will need better equipment and more training to be able to successfully breach such a scenario. The other aspect that I think not too many people are aware was at some point in time, when the assault did occur, the hostage taker had surrounded himself with his hostages. He used them as body shields, which made our forces hesitate to employ deadly force. This international community, I think we will be, after the training, after the provision of the necessary equipment that we are sourcing funds for, there will be demonstrations of our increased capabilities to handle this situation and other situations. Of course, they will be gradated so as not to reveal all of our capabilities.
Okay. The next question is from Cristina Vendaño of Philippine Daily Inquirer.
Sir, did you personally speak to Donald Chang or any
I asked
Chinese?
I asked the Secretary of Foreign Affairs to deal with the Foreign Minister of the People's Republic of China and also to talk to the Chief Executive of the Hong Kong SAR. The ambassador is presently not in the country. I understand he'll be coming back by tomorrow. I'll talk to him by tomorrow.
Sir, what did they say, sir, about the incident, sir?
They just informed us that they'll be sending people, both of the police and the immigration people. Then they asked for the necessary assistance, to which the Secretary of Foreign Affairs committed to render all possible assistance in their investigations.
But did they express dismay, lalo na because it was, a very long drawn,
Christine, yung long drawn was a tactical decision. No? If there is no immediate threat to the hostages, then you will wait him out. There is why force the issue? Why employ the final option as a first option? Why put the hostages at unnecessary risk? Don't forget na from the get-go, practically he was releasing people. So we were hoping as the stress wore him down, then he'd be more and more amenable to finding an amicable or peaceful solution to the problem. Unfortunately, that changed. And it changed quite rapidly.
Pero you were prepared to, as you said, wait it out until ma-release sana yung...
The alternative is to force the situation. And when you force the situation, when you have a hostage taker who's armed, who allegedly was armed not only with a rifle but with at least a pistol or pistols and hand grenades, then parang the calculus is very intense. If there is a possibility to get everybody out without shooting a single bullet, then I think that is the prudent course of action to take. And he had demonstrated by releasing practically a third or more than a third of the hostages that he had.
The next question is from Thea Alberto.
Good morning, sir. Sir, would you also call for review of police rules because he was apparently dismayed over his dismissal? And also there are calls for mandatory psychological test for every policeman.
There is a mandatory neuropsychological exam for applicants, and I think there are repeat tests, depending on what you're applying for, training that you've done, etc. Now, will we review this particular case? Of course, that's with the ombudsman already, but I personally am curious, as to whether or not there was validity to his complaints. And if there was, then it points out to correcting the system. But at the same time, the dismissal in the RTC and in the Internal Affairs Service of the PNP was due not to a repudiation of evidence, but rather the absence, I understand, of the complainant. So his innocence or guilt was not proven in that aspect, except that we do have presumption of innocence until proven guilty. So we cannot really say that he was innocent of the charges that were proffered against him. And I have tasked to find the complainant and to ferret out the truth in this particular matter.